on section 5.5 through 5.8 practice test. This is the test that you probably have at home with you right now when you're worried about seeing about the test tomorrow, and so you want to practice this thing. The first question on that practice test is, can you find the greatest common factor of these two? We know that 12 divides into 12 and 12 divides into 24, so that's the greatest common factor. And then the smaller of the two powers on x would be that greatest common factor. Number 2, we have the smaller of the two is a to the third. The smaller of the two on the b's is b to the fifth. The smaller of the c's is, this one doesn't have any, so none. And the smaller of the d's is none. So that's your greatest common factor. First one on the factoring section of it asks us to factor this thing. The first thing that we can do is look for greatest common factor, and I think 9 pulls out of here, leaving me with 18 divided by 9 gives me a 2x, 27 divided by 9 is 3, and the minus sign comes down. Number 4, we have the difference of squares pattern. We notice that because it's a squared thing minus a squared thing, and so we write our two binomial parentheses. Square root of the first term is x, goes in both front positions. Square root of 25 is 5, goes in both back positions. One is plus and one is minus. Number 5, our first trinomial, we're going to find my AC, which is 6. Factors of 6 that add up to 5 are 2 and 3. So I'm going to split my middle term. That's not a 3, that's a 3. We're going to split our middle term into 2x and 3x, and then factor by grouping. And I get an x out front, leaving me with x plus 2. 3 comes out of this one, leaves me with x plus 2, and then regroup that. I get x plus 2 times x plus 3. Number 6. 4 terms, the only thing that we know how to do when it's 4 terms is factor by grouping. So I'm going to put my 2 terms in there, bring that negative sign in on that third term. Greatest common factor on my first grouping is x, leaving me with 3y minus 4. Out here, I'm going to pull out a negative 2 because there's a negative sign hiding right behind there, which leaves me with a 3y minus 4. It's a good sign when these are the same, so I'm going to pull that out. 3y minus 4 times x minus 2. Number 7. We have another trinomial, so we're pulling out 24 from my AC. Factors of 24 that add up to negative 11 are negative 8 and negative 3. Replace my middle terms with negative 8x and negative 3x. Group, 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 plus sign in between. Greatest common factor of my first grouping appears to be a 2x, leaving me with x minus 4. I can pull a negative 3 out of this second grouping, leaving me with x. 12 minus 3 is minus 4. Regroup as x minus 4 and 2x minus 3. Number 8. Looks like a cubic, so I have cubed numbers and a cubed power and a cubed number, so I'm going to go binomial, trinomial. And I'm going to go cube root of my first term is 3 and x. Cube root of my last term, I'm going to get my calculator out here. And it says 7. And so the sign stays the same. Square my first term gives me 9x squared. Multiply them together, opposite sign. And then square the last term gives me 49. Number 9. Doesn't look like 8 is a perfect square, nor is 18, but if I look at those, I can pull a 2 out front, leaving me with 4x squared minus 9. Now I have a squared thing minus a squared thing. So we know that's difference of squares pattern, so binomial, binomial. Square root of my first term is 2x, goes in both front positions. Square root of the last term is 3, goes in both back positions. One's plus, one's minus. Number 10. we have a squared thing and another squared thing, but this one has a plus. Do we have a sum of squares pattern? And the answer is no. We don't know how to factor that. So we're going to say it's either prime or not factorable. Number 11. Here we're back to the trinomials. AC is 20. Factors of 20 that add up to 21 are 20 and 1. Replace my middle term with 20x and 1x. Groupity, group, 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 plus sign in between. Greatest common factor of my first grouping looks like 5 will go into both of them and x, leaving me with x plus 4. I can only pull out a 1 out of the second grouping, leaving me with x plus 4. And so I'm going to rewrite this as x plus 4 times 5x plus 1. I have another cubic. I can tell because there's a cube there and a cube there, and 125 is a perfect cube. So I'm going to rewrite that in binomial, trinomial. Cube root of my first term is g. Cube root of my last term is 5h. Sign stays the same. Square my first term, I get g squared. Multiply them together, I get 5gh. And then square my last term, I get 25h squared. Remember, we use SOAP to remind us of our signs. Same sign, opposite sign, and always positive sign. Number 13, we're factoring this one. And I can do AC here, but I notice there's a 5 there, a 5 there, and this is divisible by 5. So I'm going to pull out a greatest common factor first. Plus x minus 5 minus 6. And my factors of negative 6 that add up to 1 would be 3 and negative 2. And so I'm going to split my middle term into positive 3x, negative 2x minus 6, groupity, group, 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 plus sign in between. And then I'm going to pull out a greatest common factor. Let's circle this guy and do that with it, which leaves me with an x plus 3. Pull out my negative 2, leaves me with x plus 3. Regroup that, I get x plus 3 and x minus 2 with the 5 in front of it. All right, we're going to stop here on this video, and we're going to do the back side of this practice test on the next video.